Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast. My name is Steven, and I am the host coming to you live on a Thursday evening. What a great game that was between the Lions and Packers. Ran a little longer than we were planning, so it is what it is. But at least it was a fun game that happened to go long, as opposed to an awful game that went long. So here we are at 8:30 on a Thursday night. So we appreciate you guys for tuning in live, and if you're watching or listening to replay, we appreciate you as well. Joining me, as always, is my good friend Tyler. Tyler, what's up, man? How you doing tonight?
Doing well. 8:30 late start is, a later start than usual for us. I'm sure Alex will be in the chat saying, shut up. I'm on the East Coast, and it's actually further than the East Coast, a good 4-hour difference. But, I'm excited for this game. I'm nervous about this game. This is a big put up or shut up game for the whole Chargers organization.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And we're going to dive into everything. In terms of injuries, we'll see. But it's been mostly pretty positive for the Chargers this week. But we'll, of course, dive into some of that today, some of that on Saturday. Alex is living in a country where they do not have daylight savings. So he's actually 4 hours ahead of us here in California. So when it's a night game for Alex, it's a tough one for him for sure. But it's really interesting. There's obviously the staples in here, like NSN is in here as always. We appreciate him. It's 10 a.m. where he's at. So that's always a fun one. And then we got like Eric White is in here for the first time live. So it's funny how just, a couple hours can change things in here from an audience standpoint. We got Dark Samus in here as always. Shout out to you guys who are tuning in tonight. We appreciate you. And if this is the first time here, welcome. And hopefully we can have a good show tonight.
Yeah, we'll try to lay off the pop culture TV show topics on days like this. What's up, Jackson? First time watching. Love it. See a couple, again, some familiar faces like you said. Kay's been here a few times for sure. Yeah, we appreciate you guys. As always, make sure to tell a friend. Football is way more fun when you can talk to people about it. So spread the word if you don't mind. If you're listening, leave us a rating, review, like, comment on YouTube. All that stuff does help continue to grow the show. All right, let's dive into this. Again, the Chargers and Chiefs, it's a big game every single time. It's a close game every single time these two teams play, even when there's injuries and things like that. These two teams always find a way to make it entertaining at the end of the game, and I'm excited to see what it is like this week. From a playoffs perspective, if the Chiefs win, that means they clinch the division for yet another year. So this is obviously a very, very important game. This is obviously, if the Chargers lose, that's all she wrote for the division, and we'll have to see if they can match them next year. So if the Chargers win, they can stay alive in the divisional race with the Chiefs, and we'll see what happens. Maybe the Chiefs can start losing some of these games that are ridiculous wins that they should not be winning. But we'll see what happens there. All right. As we do every single week, we have some specific segments, and we'll get to some questions you guys have at the end of the show. I see a couple super chats in here already, and so we'll touch on those. But we start every Thursday preview show highlighting some key coaching storylines, decisions that we kind of want to see addressed heading into each matchup. And I'm curious to see what Tyler has this week. Obviously, I have a rundown, so I know what he has this week. But Tyler, for you, what's the biggest coaching storyline you are looking for on Sunday night? All eyes on Greg Roman this week. I think for the most part, everyone's elevated significantly either their individual play or the position groups play or the entire unit's play. I mean, we talk about the defense all the time and how regardless of who's out there, they're playing well, they're playing connected, they're playing smart, and they rarely make significant errors. The offense, Herbert's been generally very good. I think the offensive line has improved significantly. I think they have enough pieces to do something. And I think Greg Roman has been hit or miss throughout the season, was trending in the right direction. But as we talked about the last 4 weeks, outside of early against the Bengals, that first half being beautiful, and of course against the Titans, I guess, as well, it's not been great. And last week against the Falcons was pretty dreadful and frankly unacceptable given the opponent across from them. Yes, there are factors like not having maybe everybody you want on offense and not being a great wide receiver core. I still think that's an excuse to have only put up 37 yards in the second half against the Falcons. So all eyes are on Greg Roman this week. And he said this week, as people are asking him, he only ran 4 times in the second half. What are you doing this week in the run game? And he said, we've got to run the ball better. Everyone is committed this week. You can't beat the Chiefs dropping back 60 times. You got to run the ball effectively against the Chiefs. With that said, it's funny because with 2 tackles out and with Sam Mustipher playing, they still dropped back 29 times against the Chiefs and only ran it with Dobbins and Edwards 20 times with a positive game script, up 10-0 at one point. So they still passed it more than they ran it the last time they played the Chiefs. Again, Herbert hurt, no tackles, and Mustipher playing. They still dropped back more than they ran it, which is generally typical. Like, sure, Herbert's probably going to drop back more times than they run it. But when you have those issues, you probably should run it more.
Yeah.
What are you doing this week? The interesting thing is, so it's a tricky week because where's Greg Roman going to find that balance between the players that he has and then the defense across from him? Because the Chargers have been better running the football the last few weeks. They're actually 11th in rush EPA the last 4 weeks, whereas they're 19th in dropback EPA. They weren't so great against the Falcons in EPA. I think that fumble obviously does not help EPA ever.
Yeah.
The tricky part is the Chiefs are very good against the run and not great at all against the pass, which is surprising with this defense and the way I've always felt about them for 3 years now. At minimum, they're balanced, but very strong against the pass. But the lack of another corner, a strong corner like they've had, or even 2 corners that they've had previously, either with McDuffie, across McDuffie in the slot, whatever, they haven't been so great. So where does Greg Roman lean this week? Because I think you should run the ball more than 4 times in the second half. They probably will by default run more than 4 times in the second half. But at the same time, you want to have the success rate and be as successful as possible and attack the weakness of the defense. All right, cool. So you pass. Who you throwing to this week? It's just a very tricky week for Greg Roman. So I'm specifically looking at the run game and how much they commit to it because he says he's going to be committed to it this week. But how much of it can you do? Whereas when you look at this golden opportunity to potentially pass against a far worse pass defense.
Yeah, this is a really interesting coaching matchup, specifically on this side of the ball, and I wanted to highlight a couple of things in this regard as well. This Chiefs defense, we're so used to it over the past couple of seasons, just being this gauntlet of a team, and they still have a lot of that. And in general, I think the Chiefs are just kind of like they're in their Spurs era where they're just kind of coasting and trying to get to the playoffs, and then they'll turn it on, but. Last season, the Chiefs defense was top 5 in EPA per dropback and top 5 in EPA per rush allowed. So they were one of the best defenses historically we've seen in the last 10 years. It was a great defense. This year, you're still seeing glimpses of that. They're still top 10 in rush EPA. They're still top 10 in rush success rate. But you highlighting the pass defense, I think, is really interesting. So they're 21st in EPA per dropback allowed. Which is their worst mark since 2019 when the pass defense was not what it's been. And they put a lot of resources into the secondary. You mentioned McDuffie, obviously. They signed Justin Reed. They've done all these things. They've drafted X, Y, and Z corners. But this year, for whatever reason, they haven't been that kind of group. The other aspect of this, I was listening to the Athletic Football Show, and the Chiefs blitz a lot. And when they blitz a lot, they generally are a very good pass rush. But when they play certain teams, there are times where they will prefer to play coverage and rush with 4. And when they rush with 4, they actually have a lower pressure rate than the Atlanta Falcons do. Which I know the Falcons just had 5 seconds against the Chargers, but I maintain that is an awful pass rush. For whatever reason, they just happen to turn it on against the Chargers. But when the Chiefs rush 4, they are not a very good pass rush. And again, that might change this week. We'll see what happens. But there's some weird things about this Chiefs defense that we haven't seen for a couple of seasons. And yes, Rick pointing out, obviously they did not re-sign L'Jarius Sneed. That signing has not gone, or that trade, I should say, has not gone well for either team because the Chiefs miss him. and he's been very injured and bad for the Titans. So that's not working out. So the way that Greg Roman approaches this game, yes, I want them to run the football just because they are not doing that. But one thing I am curious about is what is Justin Herbert's role here? Because he did not run the ball very much at all last week. He tried to scramble a couple of times, but him scrambling and designing runs, it's been kind of one of the better things of their offense over the previous weeks. So I'm hoping that we can get Herbert back to kind of getting on the move a few times this week.
Yeah, I definitely think he will. And he did not by play design, but he did try to run a couple of times against the Falcons. It was just a very bad stretch of decisions and luck and timing and stuff where I think at least 2 of them he ran, but there was a sack for, 0 or 1 yard. So he's, in that regard, he has to get more involved. I think there's several players that will try to get more involved. Maybe they go screen game again and try to at least do that. Hopefully Quentin Johnson can block on the perimeter and not get McConkey killed before the second quarter. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see if Ladd can play. He sounds like he's going to be out there, but he's dealing with an AC joint sprain and a knee sprain, and we'll see what happens. He's been limited in practice, which is better than what I thought was hoping for, honestly. But if Ladd can even just give them, 30 snaps and just third downs, I think that's a huge thing. So my key thing here is leading into that, and it's how does Greg Roman answer for man coverage? So Daniel Popper pointed this out, and I had this in the document before I read his article, and then I'm going to use some stuff that he pointed out because it's just right in line. So over the last 3 games, the Chargers have seen the most man coverage in the NFL. We see teams do this to opposing offenses who don't really have a ton of great weapons, right? Or where you're trying to essentially dare them to, make plays, right? You're daring them to throw to Quentin Johnson. You're daring them to throw to Palmer, Will Dissly, etc. And they're starting to, shade coverage towards Ladd and show to defenders his way, cloud coverage, all that stuff. It hasn't really mattered because Ladd is fucking awesome. But when the Chargers are throwing against man coverage and specifically throwing to Ladd, they are generating over 1 point per target, which is unheard of. They would passing offense against man coverage to Ladd would be the best passing offense in the league. When they are throwing to non-Ladd McConkey receivers, that number drops to 81st out of 88 qualified quarterbacks who have thrown passes this year. So it's not great. Ladd McConkey is next to Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb in terms of yards per route run against man coverage. He's awesome. But what does it look like when this team is going to play so much man coverage and Ladd is also banged up? So to me, that's again where Justin has to, scramble a few times and extend and make plays that way. But Greg Roman has to have answers for this kind of physical man coverage defense, because the Chiefs, they play cover 0 at the second highest rate in the league. The only team who plays more cover 0 than them is Brian Flores, who that's like all he does. And then cover 1, they're the third highest rate in the league. So they play a ton of man coverage. We're all used to this, right? They want to be physical. They want to get up and they want to press your opposing receivers. And the Chargers the last time did not really have many answers. It's what we know, right? It was Ladd and it was, Justin Herbert could barely move. And that's what led to scoring 10 points in that game. So Greg Roman has to bring more answers to the table against man coverage, because this is a trend that teams are starting to play a ton of man coverage against them. And right now, outside of Ladd, it's just not going very well.
Yeah, I mean, there's just several clips of them beating up Quentin Johnson at the line of scrimmage and he could do nothing. I think through those 3 games, whether it's, maybe schemed or just kind of some luck, but there were some positive moments for Quentin Johnson. And then that game was a complete erasure. If I recall, I don't recall.
Yeah, he had 1 catch on 5 targets for 9 yards was that game.
Not great. And unfortunately, he's not even on a hot streak right now. He's on a bit of a cold streak for sure. And that might be putting it lightly. You mentioned with yards per route run. I mean, Ladd McConkey, 6th with, all the good receiver names in yards per route run. Then you have your next guy is Josh Palmer at 68th behind, I don't know, Jalen Tolbert, Demario Douglas, and then Quentin Johnson's basically almost dead last. He is 92nd out of 96, which isn't great. Behind Parker Washington, Brandon Cooks, Lil Jordan Humphrey. All respect to these players, don't get me wrong, but that's not where you want to see your first round pick. That's not where you want to see either of your 2 top targets with McConkey potentially not playing. I bet McConkey does play, but it feels to me almost like the Herbert versus Pittsburgh game where he'll give it a go. I don't expect him to be out there at the end of this game unless they genuinely just have him for 8 third downs during this game. Otherwise, I don't see him out there much. So yeah, how they beat man coverage this week is crucial. They didn't really do it last time, other than McConkey, of course. We'll see if they can do it.
Yeah, so my understanding of his knee sprain is that knee sprain is mostly about pain management and how you can figure things out. It's gonna make things more difficult to cut. The bigger concern for me is the shoulder, because he injured this same shoulder a few weeks ago and he played through it and everything was fine. And then this past week, he was tackled awkwardly, and then they put a brace on him, and now he's just going to be kind of dealing with this. So the shoulder is an injury that can get worse, and so I'm nervous about that more so than the knee. But we'll see what happens. I think if the Chargers can just get him, some easy passes and have him get down right away, that's probably what you have to do this week, and just kind of Tyler Lockett this game and say, hey man, like, we know that you're fast and we know that you like to get yards after the catch, but when you catch it, you just got to get down and just stay healthy. The Chargers need him desperately to be 100% healthy or as close to it. So, we might get to a point where we talk about resting Ladd at some point, with the way, depending on how like the playoff seedings and stuff like that go. If we get to week 17 and 18 and the Chargers kind of have the 5 seed wrapped up, you probably got to rest Ladd and get him healthy for the playoffs. But for now, it seems like he's going to try and play through these 2 things because he's a dog and because he just wants to be out there for his guys. And you love to see that toughness, but at the same time, the shoulder to me is a bit concerning.
Yeah, it is. I mean, is it the same shoulder throughout the entire
shoulder,
team? Yeah. Okay, yeah, which is obviously the repeated issues, not great there. I don't recall what the issues were in college, but I don't think it was a shoulder. It was back.
I can look. I know he did hurt his knee at one point in college.
I do not know.
He played through turf toe.
Okay.
And at least 1 knee sprain in 2022. And then last year he did have a back injury.
Gotcha. Okay.
So he injured his back against Alabama in the SEC championship game.
Lovely.
So this was, kind of the concern about Ladd, because on the field he's an awesome player, but he's had the hip injury, he's had the shoulder twice, now the knee, and he has not missed a game. So there's a difference between being like injured and hurt. So, we'll see what happens.
Are you also reading the chat?
Yeah.
Calm down, everybody.
We're previewing the game. Like, I don't know what you want. Like, we're telling you about the stuff that's happening to these 2 teams.
I, for one, should stand up and cheer for 37 yards a second half offense. I love being dead last in success rate in the NFL. I love having an offense worse than Joe Lombardi's. Let's do it.
I'm sorry you don't like the numbers of this matchup, but these are the numbers, and we're going to continue to talk about the numbers of this matchup. So, if you don't like this episode, I'm sorry, but these are facts. These are literal facts. So, anyways, Our next episode, or our next segment, I should say, is what are we excited to watch about this one? So there you go. If
Nothing apparently.
nothing, I guess, about this matchup we are excited about. This is just everything sucks. And anyways. What I'm excited to watch is the defensive encore potential for Jesse Minter's unit. In week 4, there were definitely some injuries and things like that. Obviously, Derwin James did not play. But in week 4, I think that was when we started to realize like the hype that Jesse Minter's defense could provide to this franchise. Obviously, in the first 3 weeks, you're playing a bad Raiders offense. You're playing a very bad Panthers offense at that time. Justin Fields did some good things that week, but it wasn't, anything to write home about. And so week 4 was kind of for me when I started to really buy into the ceiling of this defense. And then Travis Kelce goes on his podcast and says that there were a couple of calls that Jesse Minter had in the game plan that the Chiefs were actively not ready for, that they were confused. It didn't go well. And Patrick Mahomes was pretty flustered in that game. It was a big game from Bud Dupree. The tackle situation for the Chiefs was not great. And it just felt like the Chargers had a really, really good plan for what the Chiefs were doing. And since that point, we've seen obviously Dan Henley has played very, very well. Denzel Perryman has continued to carve out a role. The 2 young corners are playing fantastically. Elijah Molden, who we spoke about on Tuesday. Like, this defense started out the season well, but I just think from like a development standpoint and a confidence standpoint, like things are really, really starting to go a certain way with this defense that I don't think anybody was really expecting outside of that particular building. And I listened to Derwin James today on the Dan Patrick Show with Ryan Leaf, and I genuinely do not think I've ever seen Derwin James that happy before. He could not keep a smile off of his face when talking about Jesse Minter and Jim Harbaugh and the way that this defense is being coached and the culture of the defense and all of this stuff. So what does that look like on a Sunday night in Kansas City? The Chiefs offense has kind of been struggling a little bit. They haven't been, who we are used to them being. They can still run the football. But what does this encore look like? Jesse Minter has shown throughout this season that he's going to have very specific answers for what these teams are doing. And I love watching them on tape. I can't wait to see what it looks like this week against Mahomes on Sunday night. They might get Isaiah Pacheco back, which I think will help them. But at the same time, I think this defense is going to really be up for the moment and have a really, really strong performance with the whole country watching. I think it's just going to really bring out the best of this defensive unit. And frankly, they've been playing great. So I just think they're ready for this moment. A lot of these players have talked about just being tired of the Chiefs. And so I think this defense is going to come and have a really, really positive performance on Sunday night. So we blocked the troll guy, but there you go. There's some excitement for you.
Yeah, man. The Chargers, I think, we'll see who ends up playing, but I think they're in a better spot defensively than they were in that game. As you mentioned, that was kind of the game where we went, all right, now we officially buy into what Jesse Minter could do. Because, Patrick Mahomes threw an interception, then took out his receiver on the same play. But you are still going up against Andy Reid. It is a legit play caller versus play caller battle. And Jesse Minter was mostly winning that game for really most of the game. And he was angry after that game. He was we sucked. They were amazing in that game, but they're like, well, we were terrible. And there was that coverage bust, I guess. I think it might have been Alohi and Christian Fulton or something.
Yeah, Xavier Worthy long touchdown was basically the only mistake they played.
Yeah, and so I'm very curious if they can handle that again this week. But I mean, I think they're in not a great stretch right now because I think they're kind of cooled off, or this player is cooled off. But like Tuli Tuipulotu is in a way different spot now than he was at the beginning of the season, where it's like, where did the guy go? And then he had a great run, kind of disappeared-ish the last couple of weeks, not that same hot streak that he was on, but I don't know. Joey Bosa is also playing where he was not playing in that game against the Chiefs. So we'll see with Cam Hart. We'll see with Denzel Perryman. We'll see with some of these guys, but I think they're in a good spot. I I don't know if the Chargers will win this game. I will, spoiler, not be picking them to win this game, but I don't expect it to be because the Chiefs scored 37 points.
Yeah, I this feels like a very low scoring game right now. With the way that the Chargers defense can play and the way that the Chiefs defense can play, both offenses, can have some struggles from time to time. But I think this defense it's just on such a really positive trajectory, and I'm excited to see what it looks like. So, offensive line wise for the Chiefs, it's going to be interesting. There's some mild buzz about DJ Humphries, as Sholoman points out, potentially starting for them. Wanya Morris is allowing the second highest pressure rate in the league right now, and it got so bad to the last week where they put Joe Tooney at left tackle. So I wouldn't be surprised if DJ Humphries starts. It could be Joe Tooney. We'll have to kind of wait and see. But regardless, the Chiefs' interior is fantastic. Their offensive tackle situation is not great. So we've seen some big Khalil Mack games against the Chiefs. We've seen some big Joey Bosa big games against the Chiefs. How the edge rusher group shows up is crucial for them because they got to get Patrick off of his spot as much as possible.
Yeah, and that's what I'm excited to see. The Chiefs' offensive tackles are the Chargers' receiving room after McConkey, and that's even generous because Jawan Taylor's not playing like McConkey is. Wanya Morris, in terms of PBE, pass blocking efficiency, out of 100 players, he's 80th. Then Kingsley Swamataya is 96th. So there's your pick there. We'll see if DJ Humphries goes in full. How much is he playing? I don't know. Regardless, I'd expect the Chargers to have, and they should have, the edge over their offensive tackles. I'm excited to see this group. It's this is it. Like, this is basically a playoff game, like a mini playoff game. Sure, the Chargers are probably headed towards the postseason, but if you want to actually get the feel of what you're going to be like in the postseason, whether it is Pittsburgh or it is Buffalo or whatever, this is a rise to the occasion game. And it's been a bit quieter with Mack and Bosa and Tully and these guys. I think this is an opportunity, especially with the Chiefs not being so hot on offense right now, where they should be able to explode and be great in this game. Yeah, I feel like every year we talk about Chargers pass rush versus the offense to get to Patrick Mahomes. We do talk about that a lot, but it's been a while since it was like this much of a disadvantage for the Chiefs, and I really think the Chargers should be able to get home in this game, which we say every time there's a massive disadvantage, and then somebody schemes it up this way and that way, and then we never talk about it.
Yeah, when Mahomes obviously was first starting, they had Mitchell Schwartz and Eric Fisher, two very, very good tackles. Then they went to Donovan Smith and etc. This group is just not. It's not great. They provide chip help to Jawan Taylor, I think at the third highest rate in the league, which is crazy. Considering he's their expensive tackle that's supposed to be good. They signed him with a $20 million contract. So it's just interesting. There was dialogue about Khalil Mack during the game against the Falcons, but he had the third highest win rate on ESPN of any edge rusher in the league. And from a PFF standpoint, his pass rush win rate was 25%, which is the highest he's had this season. So it was an interesting time to choose that particular narrative. He's healthy. He looks great. The Falcons were not passing the ball a ton, and they were chipping him a lot. So Khalil Mack looks great. Whoever is playing left tackle is, if they leave him one-on-one with Khalil, I think this is a big Khalil Mack game. I think this has been brewing. We see Khalil go through these stretches, right, where the sack numbers just don't show up, and it's been a couple of weeks since we've seen him have a sack. I think against the Saints was the last time he had an actual sack. And so this week it does feel like it could be a potentially big game for Khalil Mack, and obviously getting Patrick Mahomes to the ground is very difficult. But the last time these two teams played, the Chargers had over 20 pressures, and Bud Dupree had 5 pressures. And so this is a good matchup for the Chargers pass rush. We've seen that this season, and on paper, it makes sense that this would be another big opportunity for them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look at the Raiders last week. So the Raiders had 30 pressures and 3 sacks last week.
Oh my God.
Oh man.
And they don't even have like any of their dudes outside of Crosby. Like
No, it was
Kilovon Chason is playing for them. Like,
yeah. Whew. Okay. So the Raiders put up 30 pressures. Have at it, boys.
yeah, should be fun. All right, Tyler, opposite side of the coin here. What is keeping you up at night about this matchup?
Yeah, we're sort of on the same page here. I have kind of briefly read what you saw. It's the final 2 minutes of this game that stresses me out because I'm sure the Chargers are winning this game through about at least half of it, if not maybe 2/3 of it, 3/4 of it. And a lot of teams have felt pretty good about their chances in that game. And we have people even on our chat saying, oh, the Chiefs, like, they're not very good. They've almost lost. Yeah, they've almost lost 11 times or whatever, and they still won those games.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's luck. It's voodoo, whatever it is. But those last 2 minutes scare me as a fan who's seen this a million times, who's paid good money to sit in the stands and has seen this a million times. I think you got to witness it at some point this season. It wasn't as much of like yeah. So it kind of always happens, unfortunately. And even if the defense has done a great job, it's just that like that last field goal, or I don't know, you snap it too early and it hits your quarterback and you fumble. Like it's just wild what happens. I'm terrified for the very end of this game. I basically don't have to watch this game. I just need to tune in the last 5 minutes because that's when it'll be decided.
Yeah, so the Chiefs have played 12 games. How many of their games do you think are have been one-score games?
Isn't it all of them or something?
It's 10. So 10 of the 12 have been one-score games.
Jeez.
I saw this thing online. The record for most one-score wins in a season from a Super Bowl champ is 9. The Chiefs already have 9 this season. So 9 of their 11 wins have been one-score games. So it's crazy, man. Like I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like it would be one thing if they were getting to these situations and, you know, like the Lions tonight, they get into a 2-minute situation or a 4-minute situation, great execution. They just go down and it's perfect. And they kick a field goal to win. The Lions, when they win a one-score game, it's like, okay, that makes sense. When the Chiefs are winning these games, it's like a blocked field goal, a quarterback fumbles a snap. Like it's insane to me. Despite all of the luck and everything like that, the Chiefs offense is 5th in the league in EPA per play in the 4th quarter. They are consistently, regardless of their issues, they just have a way to turn it on in the 4th quarter, in the playoffs. And obviously they've been there and done that. They have 3 Super Bowls, yada, yada, yada. But when it comes down to it, this Chiefs offense just knows how to execute. And the Chargers offense in the 4th quarter is 21st in EPA per play. And that is the story of this game heading into it. How do the Chargers get the Chiefs out of the 4th quarter voodoo? And how do they get some of their own in this matchup, right? Like, how can they get into the end zone in the 4th quarter? To me, it's such a big, important storyline, because if they come out and in the second half and they have the same exact offensive performance as they've had the last 3 games against good teams, they're going to lose. Like, plain and simple to me. If they lose this game, it's because their offense did not show up in the second half. And the Chiefs offense is so good in the second half that you have to show up at a much higher rate in the second half, or specifically the 4th quarter, or you will lose this game and the Chiefs will win the division again.
Yeah, I mean, the Chargers scored their last points against the Chiefs last time, granted many injuries, with 3 minutes and 53 seconds left in the 1st quarter. They didn't score the entire rest of the way. Like, you can't do that. I don't anticipate that's the issue for a 3-quarter perspective. I think they'll be a little bit better because, you know, guys are healthy, but it is that 4th quarter. And the Chiefs, look, people in the chat, fans who are really into this game and want the Chargers to win, you can talk smack all you want. You feel that thing in the back of your neck. Like, you feel you're getting a little bit cold when that 2 minutes hits and Mahomes has the football. Like, you can talk smack all you want, you know, because you've seen it so many times. We've seen it so many times, and I'm sick of it. I hate the Chiefs. I tweet it every time they win a stupid game like this. I think I've tweeted it 8 or 9 times this season.
Yeah.
I hate them, but they keep doing it. They keep finding a way to win. So hopefully the Chargers can find one more score in the fourth quarter to get them that win.
Yeah, I agree with that. And as Jacob points out, it would be quite poetic for Cameron Dicker to break the fourth quarter curse and kick a game-winning field goal. Shout out to Cameron Dicker as well for being the Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee for the Chargers this season. When it comes time, I think we should all vote for him, and we should all vote for him to get to the Pro Bowl because he's been having an awesome season. So before we continue on tonight's show, of course, I have to tell you guys about our friends over at PrizePicks, the best and easiest way to consume daily fantasy sports. My ticket tonight went 4 for 4. It was fantastic. This game tonight was very productive for me. I kind of figured it would be a high scoring game, and it was, and it worked out great. So PrizePicks is super fun, super easy. I was not super into daily fantasy until this season and getting PrizePicks, and let me tell you, they make it so easy to use, and it's so user friendly. They have all kinds of specials, all kinds of ways for you to win money. So we definitely encourage you to go to prizepicks.com/guilty, code guilty at checkout for a deposit match. That again, that is prizepicks.com/guilty at checkout. Want to give a quick shout out also to our friend Wyatt Winterfeld in here. Says, not trying to brag or anything, but my number one podcast was Guilty as Charged. I love this time of year because people tag us in these tweets, and it just, it feels really nice to see how many of you guys have us in your top 5 podcasts. Some great company with the other Chargers podcasts, as well as some, the Fantasy Footballers was another one that was common. Part of my take was another one. So for you guys who are tagging us in those tweets, we appreciate you. And again, the support from this channel has just been outstanding and sincerely means a lot, especially this time of year.
Yeah, it's incredible when people post the number of minutes, and it's like, you've listened to thousands of minutes of the Guilty as Charged podcast. I'm just thinking, like, isn't that years? How's that possible? That all fit into 1 year? I know it's not, guys. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know how someone could do it. At the same time, like, I do listen to my podcast more so like movie news sort of stuff. But seriously, sincerely appreciate it. We love those tweets. It means a lot to someone to say, like, hey, like, not only do I listen to you guys, like, you guys are it for me. And I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great to see. It warms the heart for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, we have some questions in the chat about a recent edition, and we will get to that at the end. But we'll wrap up the end of our show today, and then we'll get to some of those questions from you guys. Okay, so X factor of the game, I'm gonna go with Joshua Palmer. It seems like we're just kind of waiting for a second target to really kind of start to show up down the stretch. It's extremely important, especially if they're going to get this kind of man coverage. The last time Joshua Palmer played at Kansas City, you guys might remember it. He had 5 catches for 133 yards. It was the worst performance of Trent McDuffie's season. And it would be super important to this team if Joshua Palmer could even have like 80 yards, this game. He's been fine. He's been solid, when counted upon, and he's not getting a ton of volume, obviously. Last year's passing offense was throwing the ball like 39 times a game. This year it's like 28. But at the same time, Palmer has shown in the past a tendency to play really good against the Kansas City Chiefs. In week 4, he was banged up. He was dealing with a knee injury, dealing with an elbow injury, etc. So he's fully healthy now, and I expect Trent McDuffie to be on Ladd McConkey quite a bit. And so it would make sense that Joshua Palmer gets a bit of an easier matchup. And if he can show up big on Sunday, it would help the offense tremendously. So Joshua Palmer, it's a big spot for him, and would love to see him show out well.
Yeah, love that. The connection seems to be strong when Herbert throws to Palmer, other than a couple of the awkward ones against the Ravens. But definitely on the sideline, as you mentioned, Herbert trying to extend plays, Palmer's been tremendous on the sideline, catching very difficult passes, the out routes, you name it. Like, Palmer's been good in that regard. So I think he'll have a pretty strong game this one. And I think they do have to quietly pivot away from Quentin Johnston until maybe that floor has been re-elevated for Quentin Johnston.
Yeah.
Maybe he's, playing a bit better. catching the football, that sort of thing. My X factor, it's very boring, but he didn't play on offense the last time we saw him, even though we've probably nominated him 3 times already this season. I will go with Derius Davis only because he did play a lot more with some injuries, McConkey not being 100%. You saw him about he recovered the fumble that McConkey had at the 20-yard line or whatever it was. He didn't play on offense the last time we saw him against the Chiefs. He played special teams. I don't recall if he had a good or great game that one, but I'm sure it was fine. So I think they'll try to get him more involved. They have done this stuff with other players, and I mostly hate it. And I just think this might be the game where we get a big Derius Davis game. So I'm going to say Derius Davis has more yards than Quentin Johnson this game.
All right.
Which might be like 12, but
yeah, there might not be a ton, unfortunately. There were a couple times where they used Derius Davis as kind of like they like to motion him across and have him be essentially like a check down. And there were a couple of times where Justin would end up like kind of trying to scramble or escape left, and he's on the right side. And so, he's got a bit of a stable role with like the check down aspect of things and all the jet sweeps, motions, and stuff like that. But it would be great to see. And again, he didn't have a big return last week. He didn't really have an opportunity for a big return last week, but he's been fantastic as a returner. So it would be great to see him get back into that aspect of things if the Chargers can give him some opportunities.
Yes, potentially we see Khalil Mack get a receiving touchdown this week. You never know, guys.
Yeah, there was in case you missed it, there was a video of Justin Herbert throwing passes to Khalil today, which I don't think it was normal. So this is kind of how the Scott Malak thing started. I'm just going to throw it out there. It was just like randomly. Let's
do it, dude.
Just like randomly one day, Scott Malak is out there catching passes from Justin Herbert at training camp. And I was like, that's interesting. Definitely not saying that Khalil's going to convert to tight end or anything like that, but we'll see.
I would pay $100 to see Khalil Mack with the football once. Although, did he fumble it? No, he recovered the return.
No, when he took it from Drake London, he was successful in that. He did not fumble the ball.
Okay, and then he recovered the one that Fulton, when he intercepted Mahomes last game. Did Mack pick that one up and run with it after Fulton fumbled?
I don't remember who picked that one up.
I think Max run with it at one point, and he was rumbling. No, he did. What game was that? There's a good Khalil Mack rumble in here somewhere early this season. Someone let me know.
I think the Fulton fumble against the Chiefs was like instantly picked up because that's how Rashee Rice got injured, as he like came around and then there was like on the ball there.
It's somewhere. Oh, someone's saying Jalen Reagor jet sweep touchdown.
Wide receiver for Jalen Reagor, folks. It does, NSN points out Kamani Vidal. That could be a good one as well, because theoretically the Chargers are going to run the football more. And so, yeah, I thought it was Tart who picked up the Christian Fulton fumble. Oh no, when Christian fumble when Tier Tart got the interception, or no, the fumble or whatever, he fumbled it. And was that when Khalil picked it up against the Cardinals?
I don't know. No, I promise you Khalil Mack did get the football at some point. I will find it, guys. And if I'm wrong, so Elijah Molden picked up the Carson Steele fumble. And then
I don't remember that this season. Khalil did week 1
against the Raiders. Oh, was that the stupid like backwards pass fumble thing?
That might be it.
That's right. What Minshew like threw the ball backwards.
Yeah. That is it. That it was the one.
Go.
Yep. There we go. Yeah, we got there eventually.
Super Saiyan against the Raiders.
Yeah, we got there eventually. Tyler, over or under 2.5 snaps for DJ Chark this week?
Under. No. Let's okay. More, but if you told me it was at 3.5, I wouldn't be sure. I think he will get to 7 snaps this week.
You would think if Ladd is not able to be 100%, that DJ Chark would play and
You would
have some more
think.
snaps. You would think, especially because I would think that Palmer would be your answer in the slot if Ladd is not able to go. And so theoretically, there would be snaps to be had on the outside. Theoretically. I would love to see it, but at this point, like people keep asking for him, and I'm like, bro, he got beat out by Jalen Reagor. Like, I think that's that's the story for DJ Chark. I don't know what to tell you.
Yes.
Okay. If you can't tell, Tyler and I are both picking the Chiefs to win this week. Tyler, what's your final score prediction, though?
Chiefs win 20-17.
Okay. I feel like I said earlier, I do genuinely believe the defense shows up really strongly in this one. Mm-hmm. To me, this feels kind of like a 16-13 game. Unfortunately, just don't think the offense is going to have enough, especially with Ladd banged up. But I think the defense, special teams will play great. Until they start beating the Chiefs more frequently, I just can't in good consciousness like predict the Chargers win, unfortunately. So 16-13 is kind of what I'm going with.
I get you. If I'm not mistaken, this is actually the first time I've picked the Chargers to lose this season.
Sounds about right.
I've felt good about their chances in every game, and they've had enough of a win streak where it's like, well, I don't know. I think they'll keep winning. But yeah, this game, if McConkey were 100%, I could emotionally swing one way.
Sure.
I don't even know if he's playing. And I'm sorry. I'm not ready for this offense without McConkey.
No, if Ladd does not play at all, I would change my prediction to probably like 16-6. I just against this secondary, I don't know how these guys create any offense without Ladd. And the run defense is an issue. So the offense is just gonna have to kind of grind it out a bit. As long as they can get some extended drives, maybe they have a chance, but get a couple big returns from Derius Davis. We'll see. There is a path for the Chargers to win this game. There are aspects of this game where I feel pretty good about.
Yeah.
But the offense is just in a funk right now, and it's tough for me to predict more than 13, 16 points.
Yeah. No, I went wild with 17 guys. So,
yeah. And yes, people will react to my comment about the secondary. The Chiefs secondary has not been great, but you know what they do really well? They play man coverage, and the Chargers have one player who can separate versus man, and he is dealing with 2 injuries right now.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, can the Chargers get 2 touchdowns and a field goal? Like, I think that's possible.
Wyatt says Tarib still 3 pick sixes. Hey, I wouldn't put it past him at this point.
Hey,
he's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there genuinely is a path where the defense gets the Chargers there and the special teams gets the Chargers there to a win. I don't know about this offense.
Yeah. If there were ever a time for Justin Herbert to break out the Rose Bowl performance, it's this week against the Chiefs and just scramble a bunch, give us 90 yards rushing, couple touchdowns. This is probably the opportunity for that.
So. All right.
Okay, we'll wrap up with some of these questions. I think we probably want to start with this question from Alex. There were a bunch of questions about the Chargers signing of Laviska Shenault. To be clear, he is signed to the practice squad. He is not on the active roster, but the Chargers did release Des Fitzpatrick off of the practice squad. So Joe Ortiz continues to churn over that practice squad roster. I think there's only 4 players on the practice squad currently who were on the practice squad on the initial practice squad. So it's Joe Ortiz is just keeps making moves on that group. The specific question for Alex is the Shenault signing something of note going forward or just special teams depth? Lots of receivers currently who can run bubble screens if we can't get down the field vertically against man.
I think it's just depth. There's some familiarity there. Obviously, it's like, hey, that's a name that I recognized, and there's been some production in the league. But I don't think we see anything with him specifically until we see Chark cut potentially. If that's kind of where this might end up going. Because look, if it's hey, Chark can only give us 4 snaps a game and he doesn't play special teams, they got to move on. He's doing nothing for this team. So that could sneaky be it, but it might take some time.
Yeah, obviously he's not nearly much of a refined route runner at this point in time. This season for the Seahawks, he's been mostly a special teams player. So he's been a starting special teams player for them on kick coverage and punt coverage, punt return, etc. So he's got a lot of special teams snaps. Jim's son Jay is obviously the special teams coordinator in Seattle, so there's some familiarity there. And then Sanjay Lal,
Jay Harbaugh, right?
Yes, Jay Harbaugh is Jim's son, the special teams coordinator. And then Sanjay Lal was in Jacksonville for a season with Laviska during his original time in Jacksonville. So there's some familiarity there. But to me, this is probably nothing of note. This is maybe a special team signing, but I would not expect much from him on offense right now.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But again, good to see that Joe is going to be active on the practice squad.
Mm-hmm.
The first one in here from earlier today, Dark Samus, Chiefs front 4, save Chris Jones is extremely underwhelming, he says. Thoughts there?
Maybe relative to like potential expectations of some players like Karlaftis, I guess, but sure. I think they're solid. I don't think that group is underwhelming.
Yeah, I don't think any of the other guys are like true stars, but they have a lot of like good players. Like George Karlaftis, you mentioned, is a good player. Tashawn Wharton is a good player for them.
Yeah,
and they're getting Charles Omenihu back. I don't know if that's this week or later, but it sounds like he's close-ish, and that will help them, unfortunately.
Yippee.
NSN, do you think Chargers trade for any player rest of the way this season? The trade deadline has passed. I know this was addressed previously in the chat, unfortunately, but wanted to acknowledge the question here. And he says, also, I come for Chargers, and he stays for the pop culture.
Cool. Yeah, whatever you stay for, I appreciate it. NSN always in here. Really do appreciate it.
Yeah, 100%. Lorenzo next, he says he'll be at the game. I'm excited and nervous, but can't wait. I was at the Denver game week 6 when we won. Okay, so maybe get some good juju from Lorenzo being there. I've always wanted to go see a game at Arrowhead. Everybody who goes there says that it's an awesome experience. Unfortunately, flying to Kansas City is not super accessible for me from here, but maybe one day when that game is over, like a Christmas vacation type deal, I'll be able to get out there. But yeah, I would love to see a game out in Arrowhead.
Yeah, awesome. Have fun, man. I think I will start going when the Chargers start winning against the Chiefs more often. Because look, Blitz Talk guys from Germany, like, love them. They flew all the way out from Germany and were flying back home the next day, and they watched the Chargers like lose. Yeah. That to me would just break my heart. It would just I would just think about the money the entire time.
Yeah. I've talked about this before, but we went to the Jaguars game in 2022.
Oh, jeez.
When it was the game after Justin hurt his ribs, and we had already bought tickets, and we were like, okay, you know, even if he doesn't play or if he does play, like, it's still an NFL game. It's still a game that we were excited about. Like, let's just go. We'll have a good time. Not only did the game suck, but we got a speeding ticket on the way down. So it wasn't the most expensive ticket we paid for a Chargers game, but because we got a speeding ticket, it was the most expensive game we paid for. It's like 37-10 or whatever, and it was just an atrocious game. So hopefully, I don't think it will be like that for you, Lorenzo. But yeah, whenever you go to a game that's bad and the Chargers lose, it's not fun.
Yeah.
But it's part of the fan experience, right?
I guess so.
Tara says over under 5 false starts for Chiefs offensive tackles allowed by the refs.
Sure. Let's go with the over.
What is their penalty count at right now? Let's see. Juwan Taylor in particular is obviously the main culprit there.
Mm-hmm.
So Juwan Taylor has 13 penalties this season. Damn.
Okay. All right.
That's a lot. Basically, he's getting 1.5 per game.
That's fun. So that's tied for fourth in the league. And Wanya Morris, though he's not playing, I don't know. We'll see. He's 15th in penalties with 10 and 3 declined. So Chiefs tackles, fun ones. Yeah, we might not see a sack or a hit or whatever from Mack and Bosa, but draw a couple penalties, it's about as good.
Yeah, especially with this defense, with this offense.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Harbaugh's disciple says thoughts on a potential Keenan reunion this offseason, dependent on price, of course. So I think we touched on this on Saturday, but Keenan was on a podcast and said basically it's Chicago or LA. I would be a little concerned about the fit, but I love Keenan Allen, and I will be very happy if a reunion happens because he's one of my favorite Chargers of all time.
Yeah, I'm not opposed at all, especially if he's like, if the Bears don't offer him a contract and he's like, okay, the only place I'll go is the Chargers, and the Chargers probably have a decent bit of leverage there, so it's not the worst contract ever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'd be in favor of it as long as then they then go address the receiver position again in the draft in some way to just keep finding new guys.
Yeah, I agree. And I think just for the value of having Keenan around Ladd, like Ladd already runs awesome routes, but just getting some of that Keenan magic, I think would be worth it.
Yeah. The two of them competing for Herbert's love would be incredible.
Who's going golfing the most in this offseason?
Yeah, exactly. I love fishing. I've always loved fishing.
Exactly. Just every single week, Justin's getting texts. Someone please show my guy a proper barbershop. He makes too much money to be going to Sports Clips for haircuts. My goodness.
But maybe he's making the money to say Sports Clips.
Maybe. Harbaugh's disciple again. Sorry if it's off topic. In NH, I assume that's New Hampshire. It's real late, so I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Love the show and enjoy the sun.
Yeah. It is probably late over there for sure. Thank you for staying up and sending in super chats. So we'll see you tomorrow and hopefully we answered your question. Okay.
Yeah, we appreciate it for sure. Back-to-back super chats. Love it. NSN back wants to know, why is our second half offense so bad?
You just feel like it just point to everything. But I don't know, recently not running the ball at all is a bit of a surprise. It hasn't really been the offensive line collapsing. That was really the story of the first half of the season.
Yeah.
Inconsistent, conservative, bland. McConkey's hurt, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. The McConkey injury, I think, did change things. He had one final catch like early in the third quarter, and then he didn't really play the rest of the way. So that impacted the Falcons game. But I think the approach in general, it gets very tight and very conservative. And it just kind of seems like they're trying to like burn the clock out. And so that obviously needs to change. Michael Martinez says that you guys are by far my most listened to pod. Love y'all. We appreciate the super chat.
Thank you, Michael.
All of the hours of time you spend listening to our show.
Seriously, thank you.
And then last one, Nick. Oh, we've got a couple other ones in here, it looks like. But Nicholas wants to know, does a player get less money per game if he's inactive?
I feel like I should know this. I don't know.
So every player has a guaranteed salary that they get paid out throughout the season. So that's their game check. So even if you're a healthy and active, you still get a game check. Even if you're on the practice squad, you still get a game check. What hurts is obviously the bonuses, right? So like when you sign a J.K. Dobbins to a vet minimum contract, you put in there a lot of incentives. If you hit X, Y, and Z amount of yards, touchdowns, make the playoffs, etc., then you get bonuses. And so obviously if you're inactive or playing 2 snaps, you're not hitting your bonuses.
Yeah.
So DJ Chark probably had in his contract, if he hits 500 yards, he gets a bonus, 700 yards, a bonus, et cetera, et cetera. And so somebody like DJ Chark, his salary is the same. He's still making a lot of money, but he's not hitting his bonuses because he's not playing.
Yeah, his what was his not escalators. I forget what it was, but it was a significant amount. I don't recall what it was. It's somewhere. Someone wrote it when he was signed initially, and it was like, wow, there's a lot he could make here. Well,
not anymore. Let me see if I can find it. So his signing bonus was $500,000. His guaranteed salary was $1.5 million, and the overall maximum value was $3 million. So basically, he could have earned like $1 million in bonuses if he were playing, and he's not. So that's the contract, unfortunately, for him. He's still making $2 million to do nothing.
Hey man, I can also get beat out by Jalen Reagor for $2 million. Sign me up, man.
Yeah.
Ian Rappaport, by the way, says the 1-year deal was worth up to $5 million.
Oh wow. Okay. So he had a lot of bonuses in there that he's missing out on.
Yikes. Darn.
Shame. Josh Alberson in here with a super sticker. We appreciate Josh, one of the OG Patreon subscribers from the podcast back in the day. I've met him a couple of times in person at training camp, and Josh is wonderful. He's very kind to the podcast, to everybody. So we appreciate Josh.
What's your profile picture, Josh? I can't tell what's going on there. Inquisitive about something.
Yeah, I can't tell. Kurt with our last one. He says, as a Niners fan, my wife hates the Chiefs. We have to beat them for her. There's a lot of Niners fans here in Fresno, and they all hate the Chiefs. So obviously I would too if they were the team that beat me twice in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. The 49ers are the team that beat the Chargers in the Super Bowl, but we can rally together. We hate the Chiefs. I forget what the discussion was, but yeah, the Chiefs are just our new Patriots. So I hate the Chiefs, and I love the team that plays them.
Yeah, there was some like Boston sports media person that was like, man, the Patriots were so likable. This Chiefs team is so
out of here.
I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
I'll take the Chiefs for 10 more years over another Patriots dynasty.
100%. 100%.
Awful.
As much as I dislike the Chiefs and I'm sick of them, like there's no cheating scandals here. There's no Aaron Hernandez here. All that stuff. So, Andy Reid has a personality.
I like Andy Reid. Yeah.
Andy Reid had my brother over for dinner one time in Philadelphia. So there's that.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So
have I never heard that? That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm surprised. My brother did his LDS church mission in Philadelphia. And Andy Reid had them over for steak dinners and even took them to the practice facility. Got them some signed gear, bunch of stuff. So my brother's a huge Eagles fan, and he has Michael Vick signed cleats from that team that he has hanging up in his basement. So,
what'd you get from your mission?
Very sick and a lot of tacos.
Because of the tacos? Or?
Yep.
Cool. That's awesome.
But I learned Spanish and I use it every day at work. So to me, that's more valuable than Michael Vick signed cleats.
I will throw out every Spanish word I know for a pair of signed Michael Vick cleats. That sounds fine to me.
Yeah, it's each their own. But
yeah.
So my brother's very happy with the Eagles season for what it's worth. I know Alex is as well, but All right. Tyler, any other final thoughts before we head out for the evening?
It's kind of nice to be picking the Chargers to lose because now I can either be right or pleasantly surprised. So, it's a good spot to be in.
Yeah. Either way, I'm excited. I think the Chargers will show out positively. I think this is going to be a good moment for the team. I would love to see a win. Obviously, Tyler would as well. We are sick of the Chiefs, and I want their voodoo magic to get out of here. So we'll see what happens. All right. We appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. It's been a great chat tonight. Great super chats. It is honestly, sincerely, greatly appreciated every single week that you guys jump in here and do that. Means a lot to have the support from all of you. That is going to do it for us tonight. This has been another episode of the Guilty as Charged podcast. We'll see you next time. As always, bolt up.